Check 1 2, check 1 2, check 1 2, check 1 2. Final checks, final checks, final checks. Welcome to a beautiful February 22nd, 2026 in a beloved Nashville, Tennessee. My name is Tegan Randolph, your host for all things college football. Thank you so much, if this is the first time you're watching this show, for giving it an opportunity, because guess what? It's college football. If you're a college football fan, if you're thinking about becoming a college football fan, well, you've come to the right place, because guess what? It's completely free content. It's completely free college football content. And you're talking to a college football guy. And there's a little extra spice, a little extra sauce that you need to talk to a college football guy. You can talk to anybody about the NFL. You can talk to anybody about MLB, NBA, all these different things. But college football, you have to have a little extra knowledge with it, and you've come to the right place. We have a wonderful Sunday show set up for you guys. Two main parts here. We're going to previewing the quarterback battles as we are getting closer and closer to 2026 spring ball. Cannot wait for it. A lot of people may tune out college football around this time of the year. This is what differentiates the ball knowers to the casual fans. If you're following up and paying attention to spring ball, you're my type of people. We'll also be looking at some of the true freshmen, not redshirt freshmen, true freshmen who could be making the biggest impact to their respective programs in year one, because we see it every single year. So we're going to start planting our seeds, maybe throwing a little bit of extra coin into stock into specific players. But that'll be it. That'll be for the show for today. Very simply put, that's what we're going to be looking at for this wonderful Sunday. Let's go ahead and dive on in. Let me get some water real quick. Everything going well? Everyone going well? Hope you guys are having a fantastic week if you guys are seeing this after Sunday. Clemson will be in... let's restart that. Timeout, editor. Timeout, right hand up. That's on me. Let's talk about the quarterback battles entering 2026. It is a yearly routine of which quarterbacks are going to be stepping into the starting job or projected to be starting for their respective programs. And if you want to stay up to date with these, this is the best way to do it, is really start to understand some of the notes and feedback you'll hear entering spring ball, because the narrative can completely change. I think of last year when we were talking about CJ Carr and Kenny Minchey, everyone assumed it would have been CJ Carr, and it ended up being truthful. But if you're really reading the tea leaves and understanding the quarterback battle, just because you are assumed to be the starter doesn't mean you have the job. You still have to take it. Same thing could be said for, I guess, a Julian Sayin. For the majority of spring ball and summer ball, it was assumed that he would take the job, but he was getting pushed to the ever limit by the backup quarterbacks, and you could get some surprises throughout spring ball. So we're going to be previewing a bunch of different programs. I got about 8 that we're going to be looking through. Clemson is going to have to replace Cade Klubnik. Now, we can do an autopsy of the Cade Klubnik era at Clemson, was able to get a college football playoff run, an ACC title. But the former 5-star, I guess you could make an argument, lived to the expectations, but at the same breath, it's a mixed bag, especially with how 2025 went. And you are going to have to be entering a new era with a completely new quarterback room. And this looks like it's going to be a 3-headed race of Christopher Vizzenia, Chris Denson, Trent Pearman, and this is going to be Christopher Vizzenia's job to lose. To call a spade, this has been the guy that has been I guess, set up for the best amount of success to be entering the next era of Clemson football. And we know Dabo Swinney isn't a guy that's going to be taking a ton of risks, especially at the quarterback position. If he has been set up to be the guy, I fully expect him to be that. Very much the same precedent can be set as we're so early into the process of you still have to take it. I think Chris Denson is super impactful, very much a talented quarterback. Same thing could be said for Trent Pearman, but these are guys are have not been within the confines of the Clemson identity and program. And that makes a huge difference when we're talking about this, as you are going to see across the board. The guys that have been a part of the program, they are already going to have not just one, but a couple of steps forward compared to maybe a true freshman that will be entering the room. Not everyone is going to be like Jared Curtis at Vanderbilt, who is going to be entering a quarterback room where he knows he's going to be the guy from day one. He's going to be taking over that job. There's a lot of these quarterback battles where it may be the young, talented kid versus the guy that has been waiting in the wings for their opportunity. And there's not a guy that's a true freshman here that I would say is so talented that he has to make it onto the football field. Vizinia is just easily the pick here, and that's who everyone is for the most part picking. So it would be one of the biggest surprises of spring ball, in my opinion, if they went somewhere else. Tennessee automatically, in my opinion, goes to the forefront of who is going to be the quarterback moving forward. A lot of people are assuming former five-star George McIntyre, and that makes a ton of sense, especially when we're talking about a guy that's been in the confines, in the building, has been a part of the system with Josh Heupel. Now, has he had a ton of burn SEC play? No, we're not talking about that, but this is a guy that has been in the program compared to Faison Brandon, five-star kid in his own right, very talented, but he is a true freshman. This is going to come down to, and if we were looking at a world where, I don't know, Tennessee isn't having these crazy amount of expectations, you start to see the bubbles, almost like a pot of water that has been sitting there and it's hot and you're waiting for it to put the pasta in, right? And you see the bubbles start to come up. I'm noticing that with Tennessee. They're not at a boiling point, but you're starting to see the rumblings, the bubbles at the bottom of the pan, as they are becoming frustrated with Josh Heupel for whatever reason. Now, I know the reasons. I don't agree with them. I think Josh Heupel is a damn good coach, and I think if you were to move off of Josh Heupel, you would be back into the vortex that had been Tennessee football for quite a long time. Needless to say, this is a big decision for Heupel. This is a impactful decision to the scope of what this year will look like. If they didn't have a crazy amount of expectations, if there wasn't this pressure that continues to climb up and get not to a boiling point, but close enough to where you're starting to keep an eye on it, I think they're going to go with George McIntyre. If that wasn't the case and they had a little bit more breathing room where you can live with some mistakes of a Faison Brandon, who is very talented, a damn good kid who I think is going to be a very good quarterback wherever he lands, because obviously if you lose the quarterback battle, you don't play for a full year, you automatically get slotted as a guy that could potentially opt into the transfer portal. I would love to see him play, but based on the prediction and the logic that would have to follow of what Tennessee football has to be in 2026, it's going to be George McIntyre until it's not. He is, I would give like a 75% chance that he starts versus the 25%. You know, maybe the true freshman is that damn talented and he plays way above what George McIntyre could be. But McIntyre in his own right is a very talented quarterback as well. And he's been at the collegiate level for much longer. And it makes all the world of a difference. Like the difference between being a redshirt freshman and a true freshman, it's night and day. The fact that we even do the voting process or the awards to redshirt freshmen, it's egregious to me. It's like Ben Simmons in Donovan Mitchell. Whenever we gave it to Ben Simmons, even though he had missed an entire year of NBA basketball, but he was in the NBA. He was a part of the building compared to Donovan Mitchell first year, just balling out. Nonetheless, I don't need to go in that rabbit hole because guess what? It's a college football show. Oregon I put here because every website had Oregon for whatever reason. Dante Moore versus Dylan Raiola. This is not a quarterback battle. I'm not trying to create something out of thin air. We all understand it's Dante Moore's job. It's just two high-profile names. I've seen so many websites put this as a quarterback battle. This is not a quarterback battle. And if there's other websites posting it, that means people are reading it. I need to make this very clear. There's not a quarterback battle in Eugene, Oregon. It's Dante Moore. unless an injury happens, which of course we would never want to see happen. That's the only way that Dylan Raiola is getting on the football field, or if it's a blowout. Houston's an interesting case because I don't think this is a quarterback battle right now. I think it's Connor Wigman's job. If the season was tomorrow, Connor Wigman is starting. But Keyshawn Henderson is a damn talented quarterback. Number one quarterback this past cycle. True freshman quarterback. This is one of those cases where he's so damn talented. This is going to be eerily reminiscent to DJ Lagway and Graham Mertz. Graham Mertz, very similar to Connor Wigman. Former five-star kid, pocket passer quarterback. Connor is definitely a little bit more mobile than I would say Mertz, but very much a game manager quarterback, not this crazy playmaker, but is going to win you a ton of games as long as the situation around him is solid. Obviously, the situation with Florida isn't as concrete at that time compared to what Houston has in the Big 12. But DJ Lagway and Keyshawn Henderson were both sitting in the wings, and you had this fan base that was very excited to get them on the football field as the future, the next era, because those guys are playmakers, they're dynamic athletes in their own right. You have to highlight this as a quarterback battle that may go into the season. Say Houston disappoints. Say Connor Wigman has double multi-interception games, and you could point to him as a key reason on a list of reasons on why they lose football games. And you start to look at this and say, maybe we put Henderson out there. But I have zero, hesitation to say that Connor Wigman isn't going to be the starting quarterback week one. It would take a miracle. Like, I'm talking the best practices you've ever seen in your life for him not to be the starting job. He's a veteran quarterback. He's played a ton of football, and they're looking to make that year 3 jump. They've made a major jump in year 2. I think they're looking to make that third one, and he is going to be the starting quarterback until he's not. If at the worst case, you have Henderson go into his true sophomore year and he knows he's the guy, I think there is a world where he ends up getting some playing time in the 2026 season. It's just not going to be week 1. So this is a quarterback battle, but I think you put a major asterisk on it, or you put a pause until we get to the season, truthfully. Alabama is going to be touted as the most prolific quarterback battle this offseason. And I've made this statement before, and I'm going to repeat it. It doesn't matter who Kalen DeBoer picks, in my opinion, in this spot. I think regardless, if you go with Austin Mack, he's going to play well. I think Keelan Russell, same thing. I think both of these quarterbacks are going to be able to produce. You begin to have the conversation then is, what is the pros and cons of each side? And I think, to me, the cons of not having Keelan Russell start is the transfer portal. Same thing could be said for Austin Mack. And before you say, well, the transfer portal is closed, Tegan, what are you talking about? Transfer portal was never really closed. You, as an athlete, can enroll at another school, and frankly, there's not going to be anything that the NCAA is going to be able to do to stop you from doing that, because we've seen it time and time again that, sure, the transfer portal is closed, but if you really need to get to point A to point B, you can do that. That's why I think an Austin Mack, or the loser of this quarterback battle, truthfully, could be on spring transfer portal watch, as we've seen it time and time again. To talk about the actual quarterback battle, Keelan Russell, very, very talented kid, 5-star in his own right, from the state of Texas, if I remember, North Dallas area. He is a really, really good football player, and it was seen that this was going to be his job. And that's the notion going into spring camp, is very similar to a Julian saying, this is his job, but he still has to take it. It's not going to just be handed to him on a silver platter, because Austin Mack, what we got to see in the college football playoff when they were getting smacked around by Indiana, was almost what felt like, and I know other people have said this, it almost felt like a tryout to showcase Austin Mack to the college football world so that he could go into the transfer portal. He ends up staying, which I think is fascinating. It means he fully believes he could go head to head with this 5-star kid. And Austin Mack is very talented. Differing skill sets. Keelan's a little bit more of a dynamic athlete. Mack is a little bit of a bigger arm, bigger frame in general. And he's been following Kalen DeBoer all the way dating back to Washington. This is someone that believes in Kalen to make him the best version of himself, which I admire a lot. A lot of people are saying this is going to be Keelan's job, and understandably so. If you asked me to put my money on the line and say, who do you think is going to be the starting quarterback, I would say it's Keelan Russell. But I honestly am not as confident as most. I think Austin Mack could really fit the confines of what this offense wants to be and be a very good quarterback. And I think he could be pushing to the absolute break. We could definitely get into summer ball, and truthfully, you'll hear from coaches all the time say, well, we really don't know who our guy is. But then insiders and beat writers will tell you they know, they're just not going to announce it. I think it could be a case that Kalen DeBoer really won't know who is going to be a starting quarterback until we get to the midpoint or late, hell, even fall camp at that point of who is going to be the starter, because I don't think this is going to be something that's decided over the spring. Virginia's in a very interesting case of two. I can't really call Bo Perbula proven. Eli Holstein has definitely played a little bit, the Pitt transfer, and then obviously the Missouri transfer. This is seen to be a Bo Perbula job, but I'm very intrigued by Eli Holstein. I've been intrigued by him dating all the way back to recruiting in high school football. This is one of those coin flip situations of where does Virginia, who shocked the world by being a ACC title appearance and obviously lost to Duke, the 8-5 team, and now they have to replace their quarterback. I believe it was Chandler Morris, which he has a crazy story in his own right. Two very different skill sets. Eli Holstein, pocket passing quarterback, big arm. We know Bo Perbula. If you don't know Bo Perbula, you didn't follow Missouri football for a long time. Dynamic athlete with his legs, not the most pure of a passer. And in these situations, when you get a more dynamic athlete versus, but he's more careless with the football versus a pocket passing quarterback, I may actually lean Eli Holstein here to potentially win out this job in a practice setting. But if you see Bo Perbula start day one, I think that's automatically good. Obviously, it's his job, but I think that's going to be his job for the rest of the season, because I get the idea with a quarterback of that playmaking ability is easier to be seen on the actual football field and not in the practice field. So this is a coin flip to me. It's very difficult for me to figure out which one is going to be the starter for Virginia compared to Arizona State, where I think it's cut and dry. You have Cutter Boley and Jake Fett. Jake Fett, true freshman coming in. Cutter Boley, for his time at Kentucky, showed a lot of upside. If they were to keep Mark Stutz in this hypothetical scenario, they would have been with a very dynamic young quarterback in Cutter Boley, who I believe was a true freshman, stepped in and had some really nice moments in SEC play. Now he downgrades in competition to the Big 12. And if you can't pick up on what I'm saying, this is Cutter Boley's job until it's not. Very similar to the other situations. I think this is the second most confident I would be, like right there with Christopher Virginia with Clemson. I just think this is going to be Cutter's job. This is a guy that wants to go play for Kenny Dillingham, and I have said he's a top 10 transfer quarterback. I think Cutter is going to be very interesting, and I think he's a damn good quarterback, and he's going to become that at Arizona State. But we are going to keep up with all of these quarterback battles. And if you have any questions about maybe a program I didn't mention, because obviously there's so many going around the country, let me know down in the comments. It would mean the world if you give this show an opportunity. But let's keep it pushing. I need some water. About 18 minutes in. We have a couple people in here. Cheers, a little bottle of water. Let's check on one quick thing before we get to talking about some of these true freshmen. As I grab some of my notes here. Apologies, ladies and gentlemen. Cannot wait for this true freshman class. If you don't follow recruiting, I'll educate you on some of these things. There's some real things to like here when we're talking about this true freshman class. And we could kick it off very simply put. Here are the biggest true freshmen that are going to make the biggest impact in college football. We've seen it time and time again every single year. Jeremiah Smith 2 years ago, Ryan Williams 2 years ago, Malachi Toney, this the iceberg in terms of true freshmen, and I just stayed in the vessel of just wide receivers. There's so many other guys that make huge amounts of impacts to their respective programs. So I have a couple names here. We're going to go through about 5 with one honorable mention. The easy one is Jared Curtis. We talked about Jared Curtis before. 5-star kid from Nashville, Tennessee, is going to go to Vanderbilt. If you're going to Vanderbilt, there is a preconceived notion and understanding that you're probably going to start at Vanderbilt. So understanding that, you're already going to be an instant impact guy. He is a big arm quarterback. Of course, when you see these kind of larger body guys that play high school football with a big cannon of an arm, what's the comparison? Patrick Mahomes. I'm not there yet. He's a very dynamic quarterback. And I think the biggest question that we have is Vanderbilt ran almost a modern triple option with Diego Pavia. They are now going to a quarterback that isn't 5'9" and isn't the dynamic athlete that is a Pavia. They will have a guy that is much better within the confines of a structured system. So it's going to be on Clark Lee and this coaching staff to really adapt to that. But that is a very talented kid. I trust the coaching staff to put him in the best position to succeed. There's a lot to like here. Now, am I saying they're going to be on the outside looking in of a college football playoff run? No, because that's probably not the expectation this year with all the roster turnover. But if they are 8-4, maybe and somehow 9-3, that's a very successful year, and that means he's been one of the best freshmen in the country. I wanted to make an honorable mention to Faison Brandon with a huge asterisk if he is playing, if he ends up being the starting quarterback over George McIntyre. Same thing could be said for Keyshawn Henderson. Both the quarterbacks are the top guys in this respective class. They could get some playing time. They're going to be in quarterback battles. I wouldn't project them to start. We just talked about some of these quarterback battles. So if they play, they're obviously going to make major amounts of impacts. Jackson Cantwell, offensive tackle for Miami, reportedly the most paid recruit in the entire country. Obviously, replacing Francis Mauigoa, big impact player. I think he is going to be damn good. This is a kid that you see the 5-star name and you question, well, did he do good at camps? Did he look good in PJs? Shout out to Nico Iamaleava. All these different things. You have these questions of how legit is this? Jackson Cantwell is legit. This is a guy that has an incredible amount of power, incredible physicality with his hands, the placement, and the footwork. It's all checking the boxes that you're looking for in a physical offensive lineman. And you just trust Mario Cristobal with these offensive lineman prospects that he is finding the right guys, and he continuously does that. And Jackson Cantwell, he just continues to check off every boxes. There's not a concern about his arms. There's not a concern on whether or not he can be an asset in the rushing attack. There's not a question about his athleticism. This was a 5-star kid that was seen as potentially the best player in this class, and for good reason. Now he goes into the confines of that Miami system that continues to pump out really talented offensive linemen. He is going to be a damn good player. You can almost bookmark that, send it to the bank. It's a guarantee damn near. Savion Hyder, the Michigan running back, I put him on this list because Justice Haynes left. This is a wide open running back room with a ton of talent. I do think there is a pedigree and a stack ranking as it currently stands, but a talent of Savion is not one that is going to just be sitting on the sidelines. If you're looking at this team with Kyle Whittingham, they are going to be a completely transformed offense. I think is going to be primarily focused on how can we get the playmakers the ball into their hands as much as possible? How can we create with Bryce Underwood? Which is just the absolute opposite of what we had become accustomed to with Michigan football, which was just downhill running and I formation and very simplified looks and not really using the assets of the quarterback. And when you use the assets of the quarterback, especially his legs, which I thought was something that when you saw the best of Michigan football was when they were using Bryce Underwood's legs. I think you're going to see a lot of running backs get implemented. And Hyder is a guy that is going to get some burn, I think, very early into his career. Is he going to have 750 yards his first season? No, I'm not going to say that, but an impactful all-purpose 500 with a couple touchdowns there, and especially in some key moments. A talent of this caliber cannot be sitting on the bench, regardless of whether or not you think he's ready. He's damn good. Same thing I think will be needed from a guy like Xavier Crowell, a 5-star running back that is going to go to Alabama. In almost the opposite sense, you have a very solid running back room with Michigan. Alabama needs to reform their rushing identity. It was non-existent in 2025, and that was such an Achilles heel to not only have physicality, but their identity offensively just became so reliant on what Ty Simpson is, and truthfully, it buried them. This was a quarterback that ended up just crumbling towards the end of it, and having a new quarterback step in, whether it is Austin Mack or Keelan Russell, you need a rushing attack, and a talent like Xavier Crowell could make all the world of a difference. Tristan Givens, edge player out of Texas A&M. I believe he's from the state of Georgia, 5-star kid. There's going to have to be some sort of replacement of the impact of the SEC Defensive Player of the Year in Cassius Howell. Now, I believe it's going to be Marco Jones, if you want to write that name down. He is, I believe, a redshirt freshman. very impactful edge player that I think could replicate some of the production that is going to be leaving the building. But a guy like Tristan Givens, the early returns from him getting onto campus is the size and physicality is SEC ready. And he could be instantly one of those guys very similar to like a Chaz Coleman at Penn State, who may not have gotten every single snap type of impact, but on some designated pass downs, you could see him go in, get to the quarterback and create some pressure. I think Tristan Givens was one of my favorite players in this upcoming cycle. And I think he could make an instant impact to this team that is going to be replicate or needing to replicate some of the production that was lost from that front seven, which is a lot. I mean, we're talking about the interior defensive line, a couple of edge pieces and their linebackers. They're going to need someone from this true freshman class to truly step up. But these guys are going to make impacts. I'm telling you right now, take it to the bank. If you want to seem like you know some ball, tell your friends about these players. Obviously, they're 5-star guys, so if they follow recruiting, they probably know them. But I think based on the situations that they're stepping into and the talent that I believe in, they're going to make an impact. But with that being said, 25 minutes for 2 segments, that's pretty good. I think that's pretty solid. I'm going to get out of here. It's a lovely Sunday. I'm going to go enjoy my Sunday. You should too. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching if you're at this point, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.